Hello, my friends. So, watched a movie yesterday called Luce, L-U-C-E. I highly recommend it. And I got into some really heady conversations about it with my wife last night and with a client today. Now, I'm not into spoilers, so I'm going to try to tell you about this movie without revealing too much. Luce is when the movie opens, he is a high school senior at a nice suburban high school, and he is a success story. He is very academically high achiever. He's quite the athlete. He's well spoken. He's charismatic, and he is a black student who has white parents. So obviously he's adopted, and as the movie plays along, we find out that he's from conversation that he is from a Central African nation that has been war-torn, at least was war-torn when he was growing up. He was taken out of there by his parents, I think, when he was 8, and it's obvious from the dialogue that he's had. He's seen some really bad things. He may have been one of those child soldiers. And he's come a long way. And as the movie progresses, the character of Luce chafes against expectations of him. He is this success story for Africans and African Americans. And especially his one teacher, I guess a social studies teacher, a very strong, powerful, outspoken black woman, has the expectations of him and puts him into a box. And as the movie progresses, we find out that he really hates being in this box. Mostly from his teacher, but from other people around him. He doesn't want to be a poster child of any sort of cultural achievement. He wants to be loose. So the conversation with my wife, who's from Poland, and my client, who is a black man, a young black man, the conversation centered around these expectations. And at the very end of the movie, towards the end, this teacher says that you are in a box. We are all in a box as black people. We're in a box. And very rarely the light gets in, and we have to react to being in the box. And he says, I don't want to be. I reject that. And the conversations I had were perfectly summarized by what the client said just an hour ago. He said that someone defines this box and puts you in it. If you start acting as if you are in the box, you are accepting those parameters. You're accepting what that person says. In fact, his word is you're submitting to it. So even if somebody is saying, you're going to act this way because you're black and I'm white and I don't like black people and this is the way I expect you to act, he refuses to act that way. He is not going to play into that in any way whatsoever. So here's the trap of that teacher. The teacher, again, forgive me, this is kind of a spoiler, but things don't go well for that teacher. And it's obvious to me that because she spent so much time claiming she was in the box and rebelling against it and acting as if she is, expectations, counter expectations, she actually trapped herself. She actually put herself in the box, or at least decided to stay in the box and accept that definition. And because she trapped herself, as I said, things don't go well. Now look, I'm not naive. I'm not trying to say that some of these boxes don't exist and that bigotry doesn't exist and people do some horrible things to other people. I'm well aware of this. But the whole point of my therapy, the whole point of my philosophical thrust in life is that forgiveness and redemption are always available, and that we always, and the path toward this is to be the best version of ourselves, that we must always strive to be better, and not better than the person who goes around trying to define the boxes. Be better than you were yesterday. Be better than you were an hour ago. And because you're human, because love and forgiveness and redemption are available always, for goodness sake, if you stumble, when you stumble, forgive yourself and swear to yourself that next time, starting right now, you'll do better. We must be the best versions of ourselves. We must constantly strive to be better. So if anyone is trying to tell you that because you're of a certain color and a certain culture, certain ethnicity, that you must act this way and you must behave this way and you must think this way, that is absolute nonsense. Some of my favorite people, because of the virtue of what they are and what they do, are black conservatives. Because so many black progressives, and progressives, period, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, etc., 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 they gang up and they pile on these black conservatives as being not black enough or not being black, period, and saying all sorts of horrible names about them. And ascribing to them all sorts of horrible motives and calling them soulless and etc., etc. We must be free to try to discover the truth for ourselves. We must be free to develop the best version of ourselves. We must be free to do that. Anyone who tries to deny that to us, and that tries to make us deny to ourselves, not only is undemocratic and un-American, it is inhuman. I go on about this because this is a subject that's nearest and dearest to my heart. This is something I very much care about, and this is something that I preach about and against every chance I get. We must be free to develop our hearts and our minds and our souls. We must. And nobody should be allowed to define us. No one should be allowed to define us. We must insist on defining ourselves and seeking out truth, knowing that this will be a lifelong journey. Always strive to be better. Strive to love. Strive to forgive. Strive to understand. Strive to have dialogue. And reject these boxes at every opportunity. Define yourself and put that grand self out there to the world so that the world will benefit from you. That's it, my friends. Peace. 4 fingers. And I will talk to you next week.